And it's a particular honor to welcome Zoltan Vardy, a startup mentor, entrepreneur, and an investor who helps B2B tech founders to sell and market to enterprise client by applying his sales and marketing blueprint, the launch code. And I assume many of you are engineers, and if you're like me, then like selling is really tough. So I'm really, really looking forward to learn from Zoltan again, because he's shared his really brilliant insights before. He has, to give you some flavor, he has over 30 years of experience closing $2 billion in B2B sales. He has shared the launch code and his principles with over 200 founders all across the world. But it looks like at this packed audience there will be a few hundred coming extra today that get to learn his insights. And he has formerly been like a senior vice president of global sales at NBC Universal International, regional CEO at Germany's ProSieben Sat.1 Media. So he has had many successful exits as a founder and investor, and currently he serves as the chairman at Antavo. And in his session, he will share the myth behind the hustle culture and share his insights on building a sustainable and successful business. So please give all a super warm welcome to Zoltan. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. It's wonderful to see so many of you here after lunch to listen to what I hope will be an interesting and inspiring discussion. You know, I'm fortunate enough to attend quite a few of these conferences as a speaker, as a panelist, as an attendee, and I'm always inspired by the like-minded founders and entrepreneurs and technologists that I get to meet, and you might have the same experience. And you know, the advantage of this is you're sort of in this startup bubble, right? But the disadvantage is that when you're in that cocoon, you sometimes don't realize what's going on outside of it. And I want to call your attention to something I've discovered in the broader space that really challenges some of the values and some of the principles that I think many of you hold dear. So, if you're like me, you probably spend a bit of time on social media every day. Yeah, raise your hand just for a quick view. I would say it's probably a majority of the audience. You're scrolling through Instagram, you maybe go to Facebook or YouTube and you see these ads. And in a matter of seconds, hustlers take over your field of vision. And you know, there's sort of a recurring theme. These are sort of 20-something bros who have got this really amazing solution to generate millions in seconds. And there's a couple that really strike me as being typical. The first is the 24-year-old who makes $3 million a year without actually creating any videos on YouTube. How amazing is that? Or the 28-year-old who's got a foolproof method to generate $100,000 a month in less than 90 days. Wouldn't that be great? Or there's the super secret methodology that this millionaire wants to share that nobody knows. It's very, very secret. Well, if you read enough of these, you'll actually find that there's a recurring theme. There's sort of formulaic approach, almost like a school equation. Minimal effort plus clever hack equals easy money. And it's usually accompanied with a strange, exotic colored sports car and a beautiful woman. And what's interesting about this is that you know, you see enough of these and you realize that actually they're selling you something that is very distant from reality. Right? Because I'm sure many of you entrepreneurs in the audience here may look at this and say, well, okay, yeah, sure, these guys are selling me the story, but I mean, come on, I walk on the ground with 2 feet, I know what's reality. And you might say, you just scroll through, it doesn't matter. I actually don't think it's that easy. You see, I have the privilege of working with hundreds of B2B tech founders, helping them to sell and market to enterprise customers. I've done it in 26 countries around the world. And it's interesting how these type of messages impact their head. They get into their mind. You know, they're working their 18-hour days, and before they go to bed at night, they're asking themselves, you know, am I really building the business right? I mean, here I am working my ass off, and there's this 20-year-old kid sitting in an orange Lamborghini. I must be doing something wrong. And so if you take this to the extreme, what you find is that these type of messages really send the wrong message about what it means to be an entrepreneur and what a real entrepreneur behaves like. And it makes perfectly rational people behave perfectly irrationally. Now, all of you know this, but it's worth repeating. Building a business is hard work. It is tough. There are no 60-minute hacks. There are no easy wins. You have to fight for every inch of ground you gain. And the truth is that entrepreneurship is built on a foundation of grit, of determination, of hard work. And even then, only about 10% of the companies that are founded actually have breakthrough success. That's just the reality. Now, I personally am inspired, having spoken to a lot of you and your compatriots around the world, that actually you're probably not like that, right? You work hard, you believe in self-development and education, and you understand that success is not measured by the number of cars you have in your driveway, but the impact that you have on your customers' problems and on the world at large. So what I want to talk about today is to reveal what these hustlers are saying about entrepreneurship and how they're manipulating you and so many people to believe that the traditional way of doing a business is just not relevant anymore. And I also want to use this opportunity to raise awareness about the truths about entrepreneurship, the things that actually matter and have mattered for centuries. So first, I'm going to talk about 3 myths that are common to these hustlers. In fact, one myth, which is still propagated today by a hustler who's become a global icon and maybe even a role model for many of you here in this room today. Then I want to talk about some fundamental truths about entrepreneurship, the things that really drive business forward, the things that hustlers want you to forget about. And finally, drawing from this comparison, I'd like to share with you some important lessons that hopefully will inform you, but also inspire you to stick to what you're doing well. My hope is by the end of this 16 minutes, you're going to have a very clear idea of what it means to be a successful entrepreneur in truth, and maybe apply a couple of these learnings to your business today. So I want to introduce you to John Castani. John sells a course called Internet Jet Set. And basically, it teaches you how to do affiliate marketing. So affiliate marketing, for those of you who don't know, you don't actually produce a product or service. You basically sell other people's products or services, and you get a cut of the revenues. Very simple business model, pretty basic. Well, what's interesting is his offer and his whole mystique covers off 3 of the qualities that are so common to all of the hustlers. You can get rich quickly, anybody can do it, and their system shows you how. Now, I can't judge whether his particular system is valid or not. If you go on Trustpilot and you look at the reviews, some are horrible, some are amazing. I'll leave that to you to judge. But what it does concern me is that the narrative around what John and his compatriots do is built on the principle that success is really easy, that education doesn't matter, and that in fact success is a function of how much cash you have piled up on your desk in front of your laptop. Let's look at these individually. So one thing that hustlers are really good at is that they're experts in human psychology. And let's be honest, we all strive for an easy life, right? Be your own boss, laptop lifestyle, passive income. These slogans ring true and they're so cool, right? But the fact is, even though we want that easy life, we don't necessarily want to work for it. That's why people buy books called The 4-Hour Work Week instead of the 80-hour work week, or the 60-minute abs and not the 6-month abs. So if you understand this psychology, you can actually manipulate people really well. And the way that these guys manipulate you is that they make it seem like there's some hidden get-rich button in a cave deep somewhere that they will show you the path towards. They will reveal the map. And if you just hit that button, riches are yours. And they actually package this and usually into a step-by-step system, right? 3 easy steps to basically becoming rich overnight. Well, if only it were that easy. And anybody who's ever built a business knows it's just not this way. The other myth that hustlers propagate is that school and education is actually quite useless. Very, very common theme. And they do this for 2 reasons. First, actually, most of them are quite uneducated. right? They haven't put their minds to work, they haven't been good in their studies, and so they don't want to present a picture like you have to be educated or cultured or accomplished in order to actually provide value. And they actually want to appeal to people who believe this to be true. Because what do educated people do? They think critically. They ask questions. They wonder whether what they're saying is true or not. And that's the last thing these guys want you to do. And they take it up a notch, actually. You know, what they try to do is they present this concept that college graduates can't possibly be good entrepreneurs. Because college graduates just study. They don't do. They're just thinking. They're not implementing. And the fact is that one of the people that to this day propagates this myth is a guy I'm sure many of you have heard of, is Gary Vaynerchuk, or Gary V. Right? Extremely popular, millions and millions of followers around the world, but to this day he gets out in front of people and say, don't go to college, it's useless. Well, the fact is he applied to college, as I've learned, by filling out a postcard that he got free in the mail. I'm not sure what college admits people based on that standard, and he boasts about playing Nintendo for 4 years. Fair enough. But that does not give him the right to propagate that education is useless, and I think it's misleading. The third myth that hustlers propagate is that somehow success comes with extravagance and self-gratification. And there's actually very recurring themes. The cool colored sports car, hopefully, as many as possible. The beautiful woman on your arm, as most of these guys are men in their 20s. And a very, very large diamond-encrusted watch. That seems to be the standard for success. Now, this may well be true, and I'm not saying that this is not something that many of you aspire to have, but is it the reason to build a business? I would argue no. Because this type of success is a byproduct of success in business, not the reason to build a business. Now, these myths collectively create an environment, right? A thought process, a mindset. Let's look at the alternative. Let's look at what traditional entrepreneurs know to be true about building a business. Like these people here pictured, all of them successful entrepreneurs in their own right that have made game-changing innovations in their field. And what you'll ask and what you'll learn from studying the lives of Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Sergey Brin is that actually success is really a result of three fundamental insights into entrepreneurship. One is that entrepreneurship is a game of ups and downs, over and over and over again. It is actually the result of being extremely educated and qualified, not necessarily in a traditional way, but the concept of self-development is increasingly important in being a successful entrepreneur. And third, success is not measured by the possessions you have, but the purpose that drives your growth as an entrepreneur. And I want to dig into each of those a little bit more deeply. So I have a client, a guy named Richard. He runs a $3 million or euro ARR B2B tech software business, kind of grow 3x in the last 3 years, so kind of a nice trajectory. And I had lunch with him a couple of months ago, and it was a Friday afternoon. We were kind of letting off steam for the weekend, and he kind of sits down and plops himself in front of me and said, "Oh, you will not believe the week I've had." And I'm like, "Well, tell me about it." So, well, like I came in on Monday morning, and I looked at our Q2 pipeline. It was empty. I didn't know what the hell happened. It's like all of our customers suddenly disappeared. I didn't know what was going to happen. Fast forward 2 days, his finance director goes to him and said, "You know, we have got to make payroll tomorrow. We have 80,000 euros to pay out, and we only have 20,000 euros in our bank account." So he's on the phone. He's calling everybody. He's moving money from his personal account into the company account. He's calling people who have outstanding receivables, and somehow he solves it. And then Friday morning, he comes in to find that all of the receivables, all 300,000 euros, have been paid overnight, and then he just closed a 200,000 euro deal that he's been waiting on for 6 months. Welcome to the reality of entrepreneurship. From hell to heaven in 5 days and back. Now, that is the truth about building a business. It is a roller coaster ride. There are moments when you're ascending and you're at the top of that 80-meter tower and you're looking down on the world and you feel like you're the king or the queen of the world. Seconds later, you're plummeting down into the depths and you actually don't know when it's going to end. Anybody that tells you success is easy either never built a business or is lying. The second truth is that, in fact, education and self-development does matter. And the fact that a lot of these hustlers try to put this in the background, to me, is disingenuous and misleading. And, in some ways, the narrative is, well, college these days is useless because information is completely accessible everywhere. There's no gateway. You can basically learn everything. It discounts the fact that you're surrounded by extremely confident and successful and inspired people, the network you build, the knowledge you gain, and so on and so forth. But I'd like to support my theory with data. Y Combinator is generally acknowledged as the world's most successful accelerator. How successful? Y Combinator has generated 86 unicorns. 7% of all unicorns in the world originated from Y Combinator. And I read a study that was published on TechCrunch at the beginning of 2022. And what they did is they looked at the 160 co-founders of the 60 highest valued companies to come out of Y Combinator. And there's an interesting insights. A full 80% of the founders had been educated at an Ivy League school, Oxford, Cambridge, Stanford, Berkeley. 80%. 7% of these founders had never gone to college, and 4 had dropped out. The dropouts had all dropped out from MIT, Harvard, and Stanford. Now, what does this prove? It just proves that if you're educated and you put time into your education, you prepare yourself to be an amazing entrepreneur, not restrict your ability to be an entrepreneur. Because it shows that you put your mind to it, that you persist, you learn, you engage. And so I would encourage everybody to keep that in mind as they consider the role of education in building their own businesses. The third truth is that at the end of the day, purpose is what motivates people to do something great and not wealth. Now, again, I'm not saying that wealth is not an important or potentially an incredible outcome of being a successful entrepreneur, but the best entrepreneurs in the world are focused on solving an important problem for a clearly defined customer and making an impact on the world. Mark Zuckerberg, he's changed the world. For better or for worse, he's changed the world. And right now, there are 3 billion people in the world who use Facebook and Facebook products. Now, he's a guy that is a multi-billionaire, but lives in a 5-bedroom house, albeit a nice house, but certainly not a McMansion, and drives a $30,000 Acura to work every day, and dresses in t-shirts and jeans. Now, he's so not focused on money that when he was 26 years old, and Facebook was 2.5 years old, Yahoo offered to buy the company for $1 billion. And he said no, because he wasn't done with what he wanted to achieve. Raise your hand if you would have said no to $1 billion 2.5 years after you launched your company. An honest audience, at least. So having looked at these truths and having evaluated the myths, let's look at what we can learn from this. What are the lessons that you can apply to your own business as you look to build your entrepreneurial journey? Well, the first lesson is build a business you love. You know, building a business is so hard that if you actually don't work on a problem you're really passionate about, you're just going to give up too easily. So this concept of you can become a millionaire by teaching people how to advertise on Facebook or by creating some sort of affiliate marketing system, if you just don't care about it, it doesn't matter. Because the reality is you're going to come across so many obstacles in the process of building your business that you're just going to give up. Building something that matters to you is what will ultimately lead to your success. Last week, I was judging at an accelerator program, and I heard from an entrepreneur who developed a technology that effectively evaluates the health of trees. It's some sort of camera-operated thing, and you guess they scan the tree, and based on some parameters, it determines the inside of the tree and how healthy it is. And he's talking about this thing, and I'm like, man, what will people come up with? Like, seriously, an app that evaluates the health of trees? And he would go on and on. He said, look, the fact is that, hundreds and thousands of trees are cut out unnecessarily every year because they look unhealthy, but actually the insides are quite healthy. And he talks about how he's selling this to arborists that manage tens of thousands of trees for cities that have these obviously the foliage and the trees in there, the city limits. And he's talking about this, and I'm thinking to myself, boy, this guy really is passionate about this problem. And I didn't really see the business model behind it, but he convinced me that actually he cared so much about this problem that I'm confident that eventually he will find a solution. Choose your love and love your choice, and you will build a business that matters. Second, never stop learning. Now, as I look out in the crowd, most of you seem like you're beyond university age. So I'm not going to convince you to stick to your studies and get a degree. You've already made that decision, for better or for worse. What I am here to tell you is that you should always believe that self-development is a critical part of your journey as an entrepreneur. Take the time to dig into topics that interest you, learn about them, write about them, explain it to other people. Learn about your business, learn about your industry, become experts in what you do, because that ultimately is what's going to drive your growth as an entrepreneur. You are going to be able to make better decisions and think more critically about your business if you accumulate knowledge. So do not let that pass. And that's something I think that Patrick from Google actually said earlier today as well. Finally, again, I don't want to draw anyone's attention away from the incredible feeling it must be to sit into an orange Lamborghini and drive up down the street and have everybody stare at you. I've sat in an orange Lamborghini. It's not very comfortable, if I'm very, very honest. But that's me. But don't let that be the reason you build a business. Value impact and the impact that you have on a specific problem for your customers. Value the impact you potentially have on society at large. And let financial success be a byproduct of that, not the reason for that. Because what you will find, if you build something that makes a difference, it will make a difference not just to you and your success as an entrepreneur, but probably your success in financial terms as well. So keep these in mind, please, as you consider your own entrepreneurial journey. If you do, I'm quite confident that you will find that if you stick to the truths and you keep an eye out on the myths, you will be able to build a long-term sustainable business. If you'd like to get a copy of my presentation, just please send an email to zoltan.vardy@me.com. Just write Hustler in the subject line. I'll know it's from you, and I'll send you a link to the PDF version. Thank you very much for your attention.